Live in a second. Okay. Charles. Oh, I think there's something in the background. Maybe is there a? Do you have a YouTube open in the background?
Do you have a YouTube open in the background?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm hearing feedback.
Maybe the thing. Maybe it's a ventilator. Let me see. Oh, that's what you mean. Not the noise.
Okay. No, I don't hear anything open. Okay, now it's good. Okay. All right. This is this is the charm of live video. Okay. Welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Smart Money live stream. Today we are live with the legendary Dr. Charles Nenner, the legendary cycles guru. Charles, great to have you back.
Well, it's great to be back.
Charles, absolutely. Last couple of times we've had you on, actually every time we've had you on, you've had some, great insight into the market, some incredible calls. One of them is Bitcoin. It's a market. I really don't understand Bitcoin, but you've been bullish on Bitcoin since 5,000, and it's amazing. This thing is like making new highs right now. And in a couple of other markets, you had uncanny calls on oil. Amongst other things, gold. So today we're gonna, talk about, your outlook for the markets, your outlook for maybe world events, viruses, politics, war and peace, what have you. And we're gonna open up, but the main thing is we're gonna have a live audience chat. We're gonna have an interaction with the audience. So anybody who's watching, please send in your questions for Dr. Nenner. And we'll answer them. So Charles, let's start with Bitcoin first, because that's really a market that's all of a sudden heating up. What's your outlook for that?
What is what?
What's your outlook for Bitcoin right now?
Well, right now we're long, and we will sell when it breaks below 11,000, I think 300 or so. And next week is a cycle top. As you know, is that we don't believe things move at random, which means is we know when something is going to happen, when the cycle is up, when the top is there, and when the bottom is there. So it looks like next week is a cycle top, and then it goes down into the first week of September. But the more interesting high is going to be middle of November. That means it's from September, it goes up one more time. Okay. But then in the end of November, middle of November, you really have to worry. And as long as it doesn't break below 11,300, we're long. But I think it's going to break starting next week.
Okay, so there might be like a little bit of a downdraft here, and then an upswing into mid-November.
Well, a little bit is difficult to say with Bitcoin, because the last move started at 9,000, went up to 12,000 in about 4 weeks. So a little bit is in the eye of the beholder.
Okay. What's really crazy is, since when we really started speaking, I think back in February, right when the whole coronavirus started happening, the markets were crashing, stocks were crashing. The markets are making all-time highs now. And I know one of your most, your infamous call has always been for the Dow to hit 5,000 at some point. But of course, one thing that people don't realize is that you also do a lot of updates where you have a lot of updates. Can you explain the part where you look at kind of the cycle long-term outlook, but then you have a lot of short-term and intermediate-term moves which don't get as much publicity?
Well, we update 4 times a week. On Sunday, we show exactly printouts from my computer program what we see. What you see a stock. And below that, it gives you the, usually we use weekly cycle. It gives you the week that there's a low and the week there's a high. So, when you buy it at the weekly low and you buy it and you sell it at the weekly high, you go with the trend. And then there's another system that says the price doesn't move at random. That means is if IBM moves up from 90 to 120, then you know exactly how high it's going to go. It's going to be 170, 180. Some news item will come out, and that's why people still don't understand it, because they think, oh, because this news item came out, IBM is now selling off. But that's not the point. The point is it reached the price target, and then usually some bad news comes out. I can explain why, because it has to do more with the interpretation of the news than the factual news. When it's a cycle top, people start interpreting things negative. and when the cycle is up, the same news is being seen as positive. So I always tell people the news is not important. You have, what they say is the news in the market or not? That's one of saying it. And the other thing is, how's the market going to react on the news? That's much more important.
Right, right. Buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, but that's it's today what we do is much more sophisticated. That's a saying of 50 years. So as long as you think that markets move at random, I don't know how you can invest. If you have a medical model or neural networks like I did build before and then use the Goldman Sachs, then you have a model that tells you exactly what's going to happen. And I don't deal, as you know, with why it's going to happen. It takes up too much time, and you still don't know if it's true.
Right. No. Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing about your approach. Is it's all very I guess it's just objective. It's just, hey, here's what's happening. The reason why is not really relevant. I mean, right? Why gold goes to 2000 is not really important. I mean,
well, I will give you an example. When I was working for a big brokerage firm, I'm not gonna mention the name because they're tough. They don't want to get after me. There were huge analysts.
Are the initials GS?
No, I don't remember. So there were big analysts that come on television every time, and it says, what do you expect the earnings is going to be of, let's say, IBM again? What they don't know is that first they come and they ask me, what does the cycle look like? And based on that, they start thinking what the results could be of IBM.
That's an interesting point, because a lot of people now there's a lot more technical traders now who are really they look at the charts first and then they kind of they justify with whatever the fundamentals are. So it's a new trend in the markets. But so you're kind of long term, you're bullish on Tesla. I just saw a question on Tesla. I'm sorry. We have a question we're going to bring up on Tesla. I was going to say Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, Tesla, they're kind of interchangeable now. So what's your kind of outlook? Do you have a price target on Bitcoin?
No, I don't have a price target because I didn't know you were going to ask me these difficult questions. Next time, if you tell me in advance, how high do you think on the longer term Bitcoin will go? You can look over my research.
Okay.
Or you can ask me in advance and I will calculate it, because these markets are so busy. We had this gold market, the silver market. For us, it was very simple because we got exactly the day of the high, but it's very hectic, and we do intraday updates for intraday traders. So we tell them up to the hour exactly which hour there's going to be a low and which hour is going to be a high. It's a lot of work. So the longer term, I don't talk too much about.
Okay. Yeah, Charles, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put up your site like on the screen, so anybody looking at it, they can go to your site and they can get like a 30-day trial.
Right.
What is it? They put in Wall Street Reporter or Wall Street Report? I think your assistant was telling me Wall Street.
Yeah, and everybody who comes to you, if they sign up, if they like it, they get 50% discount. Don't forget. Okay.
So anybody watching this, make sure to go to charlesnenner.com, get your 30-day trial, so then you can actually get the Bitcoin forecast that we're talking about right now, and everything else.
And then you see the long-term cycle, because I often publish it. So then I don't have everything ready in my head, but then you see the cycle and you see when the top is, when there's a major top in Bitcoin.
Charles, what do you make of? Actually, I want to bring up something interesting. This is a cyclist thing you might appreciate. I just came across an article about an hour ago. Do you remember Ed Yardeni?
Ed Yardeni, yeah, I know, with gray hair and glasses.
Yes. So Ed Yardeni, he has an article, I think it was on Market Watch, something where he was saying that almost like a cycles thing. He was saying like history does not repeat, but it rhymes. And he was saying like the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, the 2020s are going to be very similar, because just like the Roaring 20s got started with a pandemic, which was the Spanish flu. Right, the 1918 Spanish flu, that was kind of the precursor to the big boom of the 20s. He thinks that the coronavirus is going to be the precursor to a major boom in the 2020s, which of course, obviously is going to have an ending at some point, which is not going to be that happy. But in the meanwhile, there's good times ahead. How does that fit into your view
Well,
of?
for me, as a mathematician and a scientist, I need the repetition of 5 times minimum to say that I found a cycle. That something happened one time is not my work. If it would have done it 5 times, then I would say you have a point.
Okay.
The
So
rest is speculation. I don't say it's wrong. The rest is speculation. I can say
okay.
something happened one time, so how am I supposed to know if that's a pattern over there?
Right. So it's so maybe so that's more of a it's more of, I guess it's more of a poetic thing. It's not scientific. That the history rhyming part.
Right. For instance, the war cycles was interesting.
Right.
I did cycles of wars and for countries in the world and presidents and dictators and the different war cycles. And as one simple war cycle, I think we talked about it. That is that every second decade of a new age there is a war. So if you Google major wars around, well, we know 1989 was a big war, First World War, and then 100 years before was Napoleon, 100 years before was Habsburg War, and then if you go back to 1900, 800, 700, 600, if you Google it, you see that every time, I don't ask me why, in the second decade of a new century, there's a major war. Now that is a cycle because it happened 10, 15, 20 times. That's
Okay.
why now we have this unrest, social unrest, and maybe a big war coming because it's time according to the cycle.
Okay, that's interesting. It's funny. We actually it's in our last interview we started we started talking about this like afterwards. We spent like 20 minutes talking about it, and you had a very interesting story. It's kind of like a funny story. Maybe you want to bring it up. It was with your friend Putin. Give us the background of the story about the war cycles.
No, I told you we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, we'll keep it a secret.
I just say that there are people who are not as rational as in the West that says this all nonsense, and they look at things from a more mystical point of view, and so they also look at my work, and they're interested in not only when there wars, when there's social unrest in other countries, and for instance, if Russia would interfere with the elections, which I don't think they do it based on understanding of cycles of social unrest. But in the West, we have freedom of choice, we think, so we don't deal with that, so we don't study it. So the other countries are far ahead. If you look at India, they're far ahead of understanding how things function in the world than we have in the West. So like we discussed, I think once there was Mr. Kondrachev, who had the Kondrachev cycle, which is actually the longest cycle we know. And he said that the capitalism is going to be stronger than communism. So in the end, they killed him. But he said that every 60 to 80 years, a new continent takes over the economic leadership. And there was time now. So what you see is now that it's taking over by Singapore, India, China, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States is going under. And I'm just watching it. And what I'm watching is how fast they're going under. It's just amazing. According to clockwork on a cycle, the United States has to go under, and from all sides, they're destructing themselves.
That's okay. So that's interesting. So we're talking about the war cycle. So now do you think what's happening right? Things there's civil unrest. You really have cities. I mean, you're in Amsterdam right now, right?
Right.
Right. So you're in Amsterdam. So there's I don't know. You were last in New York, I think, in February or March, right? You've been away.
No, in Miami.
Oh, Miami. Okay. So, but right now there's things are pretty crazy, like in Portland, in New York. I mean, they had loot. I mean, what's happened now? What's happened the last few months would have been unimaginable, in January, right?
Right.
And
well,
so,
it was boiling when I was in the United States. I was watching discussions on television, and they asked me, "What are you watching these things for?" I says, "I just like to know how they get to the conclusions." And something, according to me, is totally wrong in the way that they discuss and they think about things. Because first of all, if you want to understand this, you read the book 1984 by George Orwell, and he says that the state is going to control your mind in 2 ways. He says, first of all, I put it in my words now, they're going to tell you have to be politically correct. And when you're politically correct, when you're not using certain words, you have not certain feelings also because they're connected to the words. And then they will destroy your history. What are we seeing is destroying statues, destroying history, certain movies you cannot show, because then all that is left is what the state is going to tell you what the history was, because everything before is destroyed. It's amazing. You just see it developing in front of your eyes.
It's really like what's happened now with the left wing in America is very similar to what Stalin was doing. They would just they didn't like it. They would just airbrush them out of photos. They would just besides.
Well, let's not forget that Hitler was also left social
right.
party,
it was
then
the National Socialist
Fascist Party, but they turned out to be a left-wing person.
Right, but I'm saying, but it was the National Socialist Organization.
Right.
Right. So,
but it started to be a left-wing social party.
Right.
People don't know that.
It's kind of ironic because the left wing, these guys like in Portland, what is it, the Antifa, whatever it is, they call everybody else Nazis, but their heritage, their DNA really is from Hitler, from the original leftists, the socialists.
But you should just listen to the arguments. We flabbergasted over here. I had to ask my wife, what is the power of a sheriff? Because you got the federal government saying something about wearing masks. Then the governor says something else. Then when the governor decides, the sheriff is going to go against him. I mean, what kind of country is this? It's totally going out of hand.
I from what I understand, in the Netherlands, you have they basically have no masks, right? It's basically just saying, keep a distance from people and just be sensible.
Yeah, the Dutch people are very, how would I say? If you tell them, this is good for you, please do this. It's not an American says, don't tell me what to do. I have my freedom. For the Constitution, don't tell me what to do. I can do. No, it's a problem. This Constitution stops you from doing a lot of. Not that I know much about the American Constitution, but it stops you from doing a lot of things that make sense. I mean, what is going on in the United States? Why is this the highest percentage of people, first of all, who die, and first of all, who have corona? Why is that? Why is that? Anybody has an answer?
I'm going to ask you. Like you're an MD. Why is that? Why is that in the U.S.? Why is there such a high incidence? I mean, actually, no. Is it really high, or is it just the statistics? It's a large population. What is the reason?
They look at the statistics. How much percentage of the people die, and how much percent of the people get sick.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly what, because I'm in Amsterdam, I don't know what the rules are in the United States. But instead of saying, one problem in the United States is whatever they do is the best in the world. We have the best army in the world. We have the best medical care in the world. I have an idea. I'm not talking about politics, okay? I just have an idea that I didn't hear because it's politically not correct. You got how many illegal immigrants right now in the United States? More or less? Tell me. I don't know. 40 million? I don't know.
20, maybe 20 million.
Okay. So they work unofficially. They have no health insurance. If they get sick, they have to continue to work.
Right.
They have no income. They don't have health insurance. So you got a whole situation over there with people that are out of control because they have never been under control. And I think that's one of the problems, that they will not go see a doctor. They will continue to work because they need the money. They will not get unemployment. What do you want them to do?
Right.
Now, if you take the percentage from 20 or 30 million people, that's because Corona, and then you have 300 people in the United States, you can imagine if one contaminates 5, it goes very fast.
Right.
Now, this is just one observation. I don't know if it's correct.
Right.
I just think there's a problem with this situation. And then there are other problems that I'm not going to wear a mask. Don't tell me what to do. I have my Constitution is the right. Okay. So I think there are a lot of things. And the funniest thing is that then they attack the government, Trump and other people, but nobody says what they should do. I like to hear from Biden, tell me what would you do? Nobody speaks up what they should do. Nobody has an idea.
No, it's been very interesting. This whole thing has always been like everybody, like all the people on the left have been basically saying, oh, Trump, the administration has been incompetent, everything is bad, but they haven't had any solutions, and it's also
No.
so which is funny. So it's a lot of blaming. It's the situation in the U.S. between the left, the right. There's no center anymore. It's really become a very. So do you think that this is a? I'm sorry, I interrupted your thought earlier, but is the U.S. kind of on that brink? Are you saying that it's on the brink of becoming that, kind of going downhill? That cycle going.
The same thing happened to the Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire started having problems with sexuality, and I say it neutrally because I don't take a side, and it became a big issue, then everybody became corrupt, and then the whole Roman Empire went under. You have to look in what happened with all these empires, why they went under. The old Greeks, the old Persians, the old Roman. It always had to do with a couple of things. First of all, sexuality. It became a crisis in sexuality.
It was like the whole decadence.
Well, not decadence. They got mixed up.
Right.
They got mixed up.
Right. What's of course, I think I know where you're going with this, and it's probably like all of a sudden now it's becoming a controversial thing. You can't say anything like, oh, the gay marriage. You can't criticize things. But I think I know where you go, because I've heard this theory that the previous empires, like the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, a lot of that became when sort of you had, like, I don't know if they had like something gay marriage, but once it becomes normalized, like it's not about people, whatever they do at home, that's fine, whatever. But once it becomes like an institutional thing, then it kind of corrupts the society. It creates a level of corruption, and then you have other level. It's sort of like it creates a chain of reaction.
Well, it's an outcome of a change of mind,
right?
And it comes out in certain ways and one of the ways is the confusion about sexuality. The confusion if a 5-6-year-old should get hormones because he says, maybe I want to be a girl, I want to be a boy, and everybody's confused what we're going to do now, and it becomes a major thing. Nobody's interested anymore to start a business. We're busy with this stuff.
Right. With the bathrooms, right? Like I know, like I was in California, and the bathrooms there, they changed. I think they had to change the signs, like from male, female to like neutral, whatever. And I know people it's becoming this big deal with the transgender, this and that. It is kind of like, I guess, a level of, I don't know, decadence, or the mindset gets corrupted. But that's so you think so the U.S. has that in common, but also that's happening in Western Europe as well.
Not as much as you see, according to the cycle, Europe doesn't have to go lower. Okay. So the United States, according to cycle, has to go much lower. So that's why it happens in the United States.
Okay.
And not so much there are no riots here. There's no, it doesn't happen over here because we don't have to go down. We went down at a certain level, and we're going to be in the middle. It's hard to say because I made a career in the United States. I like the United States. I think it's going to be the East on top, Europe in the middle, and the United States on the bottom.
Wow. Now, here's the question. I mean, because these cycles are kind of long term. Everyone says, oh, the collapse of the Roman Empire. And by the way, we're getting a comment that the cameras are too high. I think we have to tilt the thing down a little bit. So I don't know if you want to just tilt. Yeah, so we see. Yeah, this is better. Okay, so Nick, is that better? Okay. So people talk about the collapse of the Roman Empire, but that that didn't happen overnight. It took
No, we're talking about 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah, 50, 60, 70 years. So when you're saying that America has reached a peak right now, so things could be kind of coasting along over the next.
Well, that's why I said I'm surprised how fast they're destroying themselves.
Okay. So you think it's going faster? You think the trend is accelerating quicker?
Well, they could bring themselves down to a plateau phase and then bring them down in 20 years again. I don't know where it's going to end, but nobody knows anymore what's true and what's not true, or what the right thing is or what not the right thing is to do. I mean, if you have shop owners that ask the police, can you help me? They're burning down my store, and they don't do anything. So the next thing they do is they're going to take a gun and protect themselves. And then what are you going to do?
Well, right. So the issue is this. For example, like in cities like, all these cities that we're talking about, New York, Portland, whatever it is. I don't know about Portland, but I know definitely New York, Los Angeles, maybe Los Angeles. You can't have a gun in New York, right? It's so now
you can't. I don't know. I thought you can have a gun in the United States.
Not in New York City. No,
I didn't know. Okay.
No, well, I mean, you could apply. You could apply. I think you have to fill out a bunch of forms. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah, you can't have for sure getting a handgun. I think a rifle maybe is a little bit, but basic and not automatic for sure. But definitely no handguns. And so the issue is this. So, for example, in New York, you have all these riots. You have like the police basically they can't do anything, right? In the U.S. right now, the police and anywhere they really are. They can do nothing, and the civilians, the citizens, really cannot protect themselves. They can't defend themselves in the cities where all this is happening. Not in other places. Not in not in Texas. For some reason, you don't see.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that if they take away the guns, people don't take up a knife. I will give you. I discuss it in the United States. I never get an answer to simple questions. In the United States, we've got these shootings, right?
Yeah.
In Israel, everybody has a gun. There's never a school shooting.
Right.
So let's think about this.
Right.
So you must conclude it has to do with the person, not with the gun.
It's interesting. People are saying, "Oh, it's gun." It's really not the guns, because if you look at what you don't see this that much in the news, but in China, or I think also in Japan, in China, there's like instead of mass shootings, they have like mass stabbings. People just go crazy and they, there's some really, crazy things. Like people they stab a bunch of kids in like school. There's some crazy stuff goes on, but they do it with knives. It's what's the difference? A knife, I think actually technically a knife is more dangerous than a gun, in terms of damage you could do. So it's there's no the U.S. situation is getting a little bit crazy. How does that make you feel about gold? Actually, we have a question about gold. Here we go. We'll get audience question. Is this the time to buy gold?
Well, we have been long gold from I think 1350 or so, because we said gold is going to 2,500 first of all. And it still goes to 2,500. We had a huge correction now, and it should be almost over the correction. And I just think the gold will go higher again to a price tag of 2,500. If it breaks through, then it goes even much higher than that.
Okay. When you say much higher, what do you consider much higher? If it breaks 2,500,
it could go to 10,000 or so. I did calculate it. I tell you, we don't have enough time to do everything. But if you talk much higher, talk about much higher.
Okay.
But if you see my old writings from 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we're buying, and people want to stay long, 2,500. But in the meantime, it's nice to play $200 up, $200 down. We discussed it once. I don't know with you is what happens. People say I'm in for the long term, and then it goes down $250, and then they get worried and they sell it with a loss, and then it says now it's a buy, and it hurts so much that they can't buy again because they're afraid now. So I still tell people we're in for the long term, but if it's a big move, which is a move of $200 or $150, we go out and then we buy back. So okay. I don't believe in this. I don't believe anybody's strong enough for the long term. You need a stomach to stay with gold and silver for the long term because it's so volatile.
Okay. Again, getting back to the part we say that gold can go much higher from 2,500. There's been, and we've interviewed a lot of people that have been, talking about gold, 5,000, 10,000 sounds like 10,000 sounds like an extreme number, but is that?
I even came up with a number of 30,000.
No, did you? What you did?
Yeah, and I said why? Because if we go back to the gold standards, you can calculate gold should be now at 30,000.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
And the other thing is the long term, the very long term cycle is up till 2026. So when we're already at 2,100, it seems, with so many years to go, that 2,500 is not enough.
Okay, so basically, so you're saying that so gold right now is in an up cycle till 2026, 6 more years,
Correct.
6 more years to go. So that could be a massive move in over 6 years.
That's why I said, but for now, we got from 1350 and we talked about 2,500, and then we'll take a look.
Okay. Nick is asking, do you see silver explode after gold goes up?
Well, usually silver is more volatile than gold, and then if you look at the gold silver equation, then silver should outperform gold.
Right. What is it? What is it's in theory? Is this supposed to be like 16-1? Is that kind of the real formula, the real ratio?
I'm not. I don't know. I have to look it up.
There was I was talking to was it David Moore? You know, he's a big silver guru. And he's very into the ratio. I think it was like 16-1, but it was sort of like a ratio that goes back thousands of years, like a biblical time is about 16-1, whatever the value should be, and so that would imply I guess a big move in silver. We got a question, Charles. You have a book coming out?
Well, I told him that when I retire, I'm gonna write, but I still not retiring, and I'm waiting for my son to maybe, and my daughter. They're now joining the firm. My problem is that it's kind of secretive, the things that nobody else knows. So it's very hard for me to take people in because they can run away with the secrets. So that's why I have to keep it in the family. I have had some cases where people, stole stuff and stole computer programs, but thank God they didn't really know how to manage it, how it worked, because I put in there a self-destructing mechanism. So now they have nothing. But I'm still busy, and I have a lot to say. But it's a good question. I think for now I'm too lazy to add that also to write a book.
Okay.
Nick
is 10-1 ratio. Is that? I think 16-1. Is it? But there's so it's but yeah.
Well,
silver.
let's make it very simple. The high last time was 1900, and the all-time high, I think, not the all-time high. I don't remember. In the last high and in the 80s was 50 for silver.
Okay.
So gold is much above the high. So silver, it's at 25. So it should double if it wants to go back. Also, only making a high again at 50.
Okay. You see this? $85,000 an ounce gold. Have you heard of this?
No, but I thank you. I mean, some people are much more clever in calculating this stuff so fast. Okay, so maybe we should keep it in mind. I think if they really get a problem with the budget, which I don't think they will, because I don't see the problem. The dollar is the currency of the world, so they can print as much as they want. But if there's a problem, they have to go back to the gold standard. Now, when will finally Tesla shares will crash? Again, if this gentleman of the Wall Street Report would tell me in advance, I would know, I would calculate it. But again, you have a free trial of 30 days. This Tesla is there, the cycle is there, and then you see in front of your own eyes what it looks like, what a cycle looks like, and then you know exactly when it's going to come down. I remember short term the cycle is already down now, but I don't remember till when.
Okay. So right on the screen, charlesnenner.com, put in the Wall Street Reporter, that's the code, you get a 30-day free trial. All your questions will be answered. I
hope so. I'm waiting for the person that does it to me, but you never know.
So we talked. What about? So we talked about gold. We talked about. Let's go back because we're back on the political thing with the U.S. The gold is it's related to that. You have. So essentially, do you have an outlook for the election? What's your where are we? Is there a cycle, an election cycle?
Yeah, there's an election cycle, and the funny thing is that when interest rates are going up, then the president is going to be reelected. Isn't that funny? I don't know why that is, but it works almost always.
That doesn't make any sense in a way, right? I guess rising rates mean what? An improving economy in theory, right?
I think so, but I mean, in this situation, I think rates are rising. I mean, we talked about last time. I had seen a major low in rates. Now they start rising for a longer period. And we've seen it in Europe because there was no liquidity and governments are in trouble. So that will have rates rising even the economy is bad. So it doesn't, in this situation, doesn't mean it's because the economy is bad.
So you think there's a chance that do you think there's a chance that Biden becomes president?
According to the stock market, no, because I don't
cycle?
think the stock market would be here if they think Biden would win. But again, we're right here at an inflection point. You have to understand this. I sent out in January this year a yearly chart of the S&P, where every bar was 1 year. So instead that you look at the chart, each bar is 1 day, it was 1 year. And there was a chart going back to the low of 2009. And if you do that and you connect all the lows up to 2020 and all the highs, you get a parallel channel. And the top of the channel was reached every time for the last 10 years, 11 years. So one of the reasons that I saw a top coming is I just saw where it was at the top of the channel. And that was S&P 3390. So I published it a couple of times. I don't understand why nobody looks at it because they only look short term. I said, listen, I almost never saw a market that breaks out of a yearly parallel channel. You know what a parallel channel is, right?
Yeah.
We use it all the time. Maybe hourly, maybe daily sometimes, but yearly, that's crazy. So let's assume it's not going to break out. So we went into zero stocks right at the high. But it's still the same year, and now we're exactly again at 3,400. So the two things going to happen: or the system works that it says it's not going to break out on the upside above the channel, or you have what's called a blow off. So if it goes above 3,400, then you have no idea what's going to happen. Then every idiot is gonna go into the market. I looked in history. I don't think it happens if you have a yearly parallel channel, but you don't hear it. I mean, we're at the highs. I put on CNBC because I like to hear what they say at such a moment. And then the market didn't break through, and they have a reason. Biden says this, Trump said that. Nobody says, you know what? Maybe, I'm not talking about a cycle. Maybe people who were in the market just below 3,400 in S&P say, my God, I came back and now I can take profit again. Let's get out now. So nothing happened because that was the high in January before the 40% down move. I don't know why people don't talk like that, but they talk about the market didn't make it because Biden chose this vice president, that vice president is a tweet of Trump, and who knows what.
So what's the bottom line, Charles? What does the cycle say? Bottom line, presidential election, U.S.
That's a hard one. I think according to that cycle that says when interest rates start going up, the sitting president stays there. I think Trump is going to be there.
When rates go up, but the rates are going down.
No, rates are going up. We saw a major high in the bonds, meaning we saw a major low in rates.
Okay, yeah, you're paying closer attention to rates than I am. I'm looking like last couple. You're saying just recently, right now.
We have made a long-term low in rates.
Yeah, we did.
That means is that people who are in a bond fund or buying bonds now that get a 10-year bond, 1% something, are going to be there in 4 or 5 years, losing 30% of their capital, and inflation might be up 3-4%. So that -0, I don't know how they're going to survive. So the biggest crash for people's safety is in the bond market, not in the stock market. There's much more money in bond markets than in stock markets.
Okay. We got a question for the euro. Which one comes first?
130.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not looking good. Well, for I guess it depends which way. How quick do you think you can get to 130?
Well, cycles look up for a while. I mean, right now, I always have to be careful other people's thing has work. Right now, we're exactly at the cycle high. So because what happens if I say it goes long term and then I forget to say that, then the euro goes down for 4 or 5 weeks. Oh, the cycles don't work. So I have to say, I say now that right now is not the time to buy euro, but it goes to 130 before it goes to 1.
Okay.
Again, if you look at we were long the euro from 108. It's
I
not
remember,
great.
I remember when we spoke, it was in February, and when the euro was around, it might have been, it was right around the lows, like 106, 108, somewhere in that
Yes.
range.
So we bought at 108, and we're still there, and it's now 119.
Yeah, and I kind of, yeah, to be honest, I was kind of biased against your opinion because, I wanted to take a trip to Europe, and I didn't want to believe that that the dollar would be going down that much.
Well,
Now
if you
we
stay
really
with me,
know.
you have less expenses, so you can make it up.
But they can't. But they're not even letting the Americans in right now.
Is that the, yeah, I think so. But that's also because, well, they're very much afraid. They think that, it's overdone. They also don't let people from Spain in because there's so much corona going around. So it's not only against you.
Okay, is Trump going to win more than just 2 terms?
Who's Rob Schneider?
Rob Schneider, I think, is an American comedian. Is he talking about the American guy? I think I don't know if that's a joke or. I know there's an American comedian named Rob Schneider.
Wasn't it Roosevelt who had more than 2 terms?
That's right. That's FDR. Yeah. But you do have like you have Junior, right? Donald Trump Jr. You have what's her name? Ivanka. Then you have Barron. So you could have a dynasty. You could have.
That's interesting. It starts to be dynasty in the United States.
Like the Bushes try to do, right? So
Yeah. Well, let's not go around to Bush. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, we don't hear about them that much anymore. He's also asking.
Yes, I did work for Bush, and I liked him very much, the young Bush.
The W Bush.
What?
George W. Bush, right?
Yeah.
The guy. Okay. Should he invest in stocks? Do you have recommendations? Are there cycles in the cannabis sector?
I don't look at that. But it's better to smoke the paper with the wheat than the stock paper in the wheat. And I don't. But again, I could look at it, but I don't look at the wheat stocks. What we mostly do directions, and then I would give recommendations of a couple of stocks that I really like and I take responsibility for. And you just need one stock. Again, if you know of IBM, some people say, "What about stocks in Thailand?" I said, "Listen, if you know all your life when IBM goes up and down, you don't need to know more than that." So,
right.
Yeah, so what I want to say is we do what we understand and we don't try to do what we don't understand.
Right. No, listen, there's always plenty of money to be made in any market. It's you don't have to go into all sorts of exotic areas. So what would you recommend? Let's say based on your concept of the cycle thing, where the U.S. America is basically peaking, the American empire, so to speak. And I think I know there are cycles about empires last, like, was it 200 years? There's something like that. They last right around that period.
I'm sure there is, but that I only looked in war cycles.
Okay. So getting back to the war cycle. So you're saying the war cycle is the one that you're looking at, and that's the one that's pointing to an American decline?
No. There's different cycles. There's economic cycles and the war cycles. And the war cycle says we're in a very dangerous period. And the economic cycle says that it's now the turn of the United States to be in decline. Because they were on the top and they have to rotate. So now they have to go back to the bottom.
Okay.
In 1900, China, I think, was the biggest economy in the world.
Right. Or Argentina also. Argentina was also booming.
So you have an example how things, go up and down, And we know why that happens, right? Because if you're the first one, then you get behind. I mean, in the United States, they use checks. The people go to the bank. Here, there's almost no bank in Amsterdam. Who has to go to a bank to? I don't know what people do in a bank. What do they do in a bank? You can do everything online. But it's full of banks when you drive around the United States. So it's old-fashioned. So that's why these cycles work. They just get behind.
Interesting. Do you think this is it? I mean, China obviously, is on the rise. Is this? I mean, is this the beginning of the Chinese of the rise of the Chinese empire, or what's your outlook on China?
Well, definitely, but in China, in its history, almost was never going outside. They were never aggressive outside. They had enough with their own country. The Japanese were more looking outside to conquer something, but it's hopeful that the Chinese don't have that. They're Taoist a lot, and and they don't have that thing that they have to expand. And I think they really have some fears about the crazy West.
China? You mean China is scared of the West? You're saying?
Yeah, I still really think that they think we have to be stronger because you don't know what these Americans gonna do.
Interesting. Because I mean, the Chinese have been very, let's just say, active. In that whole South China Sea. I mean, they're building islands. They're like,
But if you look at the presentation they had 10 years ago, they said, "Where do you think the war is going to be?" I think it's going to be with China because of the islands in the Chinese Sea. That was so clear to me.
Okay. So you think
what is the West going to do if they want to take over Taiwan?
It's a good question. I mean, right. That's what are they going to do?
Or you give it to them, or it's going to be the end of the world.
Right. Well, I mean, they've already taken over Hong Kong, and nobody really has done anything about it, right?
Because we're too busy with deciding who can go in which bathroom.
Right. And wearing masks. And
okay, yeah. Well, that's still reasonable. I mean, I was almost in big trouble in the airport because I asked somebody where's the men's room, and I almost got attacked. There's no men's room. There's a people's room. You have to keep up with these things.
They said the people's room?
They call it the people's. I didn't know that.
Oh, it's like the that sounds like something from what is it, Seattle, where they had that occupied zone, they call it, the people's or whatever they call it. There's definitely there's a lot of left wing kind of propaganda really seeping in, and I mean I grew up in the Soviet Union, and when I see this happen, it's like this is like a early Stalinism basically. This is what this is here. So it's a pretty interesting situation. So what would you advise Americans to do? Let's say obviously this is not going to be an overnight collapse. Maybe it's speeding up. But what would you advise people to do? Get into gold? I mean, real estate.
Well, it starts to be problematic because I've told a lot of people that don't want to take any risk, go in real estate, take the rent, and if it goes down in a couple of years, it comes back. Now it's a problem because you might have a mall or big apartment houses and people cannot pay the rent anymore. So also that doesn't work. So we might get in a situation that nothing is going to work anymore. It's very problematic.
Okay, except gold. You are bullish on gold though.
Should be we long or short the VIX here? We are long the VIX for people who know a little bit more about calls because the VIX is cannot trade. You trade with calls. We have call spreads, and I will explain what we have is exactly what we have. We bought the 32.50 call for November, and we sold the 45 call for November. Why November? Because then we don't have to worry if it happens now or in 2 weeks. And why a spread? Because if you buy something and you sell something against it, you invest less, and if nothing happens for 2 or 3 months, the difference is still be about the same. So we're just sitting in that position until it happens.
Okay. Dollar devaluation. Is the September 7th? Is this dollar devaluation?
Well, I think it was flashing. I think he asked when it officially starts, but I don't know what he means by will officially start. We have heard on Labor Day would hedge the slow burn.
I guess the devaluation of the dollar, right? Or this maybe plays into the whole rise of the euro.
They will never do officially. It's against American mentality. They're ashamed of themselves to devalue it. Well, that won't happen. The market will take care of it.
Right. No. Yeah. I mean, no. I guess I don't know. Was he really thinking about official? No. That would be like that actually would be un-American.
For people who are interested, we're watching the level around 93 on the dollar index. If it breaks below that, then really it's going to be a big problem for the dollar.
Okay. What about the pound? Do you have anything on the pound? Dollar pound?
Yeah. I can tell you what the position is. We are long the pound as long as it doesn't close below 129. It's now 130 and a half or so. Okay.
$1.30. Okay. Yeah, it's really the pound has gotten a beating over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah.
I mean, people were saying it's going to parity with the dollar.
No, it's not. But everything is there in the research. The Australian dollar, the Japanese yen, the British pound, the Brazilian real, the Israeli shekel, the Bitcoin. So take a look. It's for free, and then you know exactly what we're thinking.
Okay. So again, we're putting up the address here, charlesnenner.com. Get a 30-day trial. You got to mention Wall Street Reporter though to get the 30-day trial. Let's see. We got any other?
I have to take a drink. I don't know if it looks good on camera.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. This is very casual. What other questions do we have? Questions? Okay. Oh, did we talk about oil, Charles? Did we talk about oil?
No.
What's your outlook on oil? Because you were very bearish on oil. You were obviously right on the money, even more.
We had a target of $4.
You were more than right.
People complained you were wrong. It went, we went short at 68, and we covered around $4, and then it went for 2 days below to -13, and people were upset. Why did you say -30? I says, well, my system cannot calculate below zero, so it couldn't see that. But we're still bullish on crude for a while.
Okay. So crude is heading back up.
Yeah, for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, if I remember.
Okay. Okay.
Not much.
Okay. Here we go. Question about which one concerns you more?
Hyperinflation. Deflation.
Deflation.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Deflation, even with all the money printing with the Federal Reserve.
Well, let's take that aside. Let's say, like, what I think is that you got a much worse virus situation after the summer, and everything is closed down, and nobody goes out of his house, and nobody does any buying, and nobody has money because they get one time $600, $700 from the government. So you don't think that leads to deflation? There's much more going on, but you don't think that's deflationary?
I think there's actually been inflation, well, in the U.S. because of the people who are out of work. They're getting these checks.
But that's for stuff, right?
A lot of people are making more money.
Forever.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who've been making basically more money than they were making. Let's say somebody had like a minimum wage job. Now they're making much more money than they ever made, and they might be working on the side also. So they're making basically like 3 times what they made. So there's been maybe a very strong consumer confidence because of that, or there's been like
and the stock market investors thinks that's real. Of course, it's not real. But the money that they put in the system, the Fed, is not real money. It's not based on anything. I give you the other side, okay? Here in Europe, we have negative interest rates. We have the biggest pension funds in the world. Here, I think also like in the United States, you have to put every year 10 or 15% into your pension fund for later. Now they can almost not pay the pensions anymore because for years they have to go for 70% or so in bonds, and they get zero return. So the other side of low interest rates is a little bit later is that there's no buying power anymore because people make no money. When last time I was in Miami, I saw 85-year-old people packing my stuff in a supermarket because he thought he had $1 million and he could live from it, but he doesn't get any interest on it. So he had to go back to work. So that's the other side of giving all this money in the market. It leads to deflation, not inflation, but the different schools of economic thought. And I like to hear what the argument is against this. If I say, all the people and even middle-aged people don't have any income from their capital, and they don't get any savings, and they don't know what to do. Soon they'll be afraid to spend money.
Here we go. Question. Yep. Charles, you have any picks for short-term profits, or should they go to the website to get a free trial?
Please go to the website because it tells you exactly what to buy, what level to buy, which day to buy. Everything is there. Because I might make a mistake. I don't have anything. We do so many markets. I don't have everything ready in my head. I don't want to make a mistake.
And mention Wall Street Reporter to get the free trial.
Yeah, we heard you. We heard you. Yeah.
All right. So Charles, what about European markets? You have any like outlook for, I don't know. Let's
Well,
pick up.
you see, that's one of the things I don't understand. If by now history tells us all markets go in sync, so if the Wall Street crashes, you think European market goes up, and if Europe crashes, Wall Street will not. They all go the same. So the European markets are on a buy signal, but they've been going sideways already for, I don't know, 3 months or so. They're not doing very much, but they continue in a buy signal.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. We don't have any more comments. I think we're kind of might be running out of time. So Charles, I want to ask you one last thing.
Anybody watching us? What's going on?
Yeah, we got people watching. Yeah, we got how many people? We don't know, but we're getting comments. Everyone, we got questions. We pop them up on the screen. Yeah, your last video had like 20,000 views.
Oh, I didn't look at it, so take me. I didn't watch it, but it's okay.
Yeah, 20,000 views. It was a lot. It was one of our biggest ones. You're a celebrity. You're a bona fide celebrity.
Wow! Wow!
What, Charles? You mentioned something about the virus situation. Do you think? And actually, you mentioned this. I think last time we spoke in April. Do you think there's going to be a resurgence in the fall, like when we get into October?
Listen, there have been this started with the in the year 500 in Europe. If you look at all the times there was a pandemic, it always happened the same thing. And I don't know why nobody goes on television. But I have the same problem with my cycles on stocks and financial markets. I do this for 30 years. I did it for Goldman Sachs, and still, if I don't speak up, nobody understands that there's a different way of approaching. So wouldn't you like to know how these things develop? Why is there nobody on American television says for the last 10 times that there was such an attack of virus or whatever, parasites, whatever it was, it developed always the same way. It goes in 3 waves. The second wave is usually much worse than the first wave. And if you read the history of what happened in 1918 in San Francisco and California, there was the same thing. One mayor says you have to wear masks. The other one says you don't have to wear masks. And then you see that where they were wearing masks, the survival rate was much higher than where they didn't wear masks. But nobody says that. I don't understand that. You should ask somebody who's in charge. Do you know these facts? Do you know that 100 years ago, the same thing happened? And the governor that decided you have to wear masks had a population that was much less sick than the government says you don't have to wear masks. Do you want to have that on your conscience? It's not politically correct. So they just talk around. I don't know what they're talking about. You know, Dr. What is his name? Fawcett, that always comes on television with Trump. He was by the biggest, really known university in Italy. He was offered a job. We like you in Europe. If they don't like you over there, come here. They don't know what they have over there. But he can say whatever he wants to say because it's not politically correct. So I personally urge people, think for yourself. Don't wear a mask because a sheriff tells you to do it or you can get away with it not. I mean, life is very precious. And your children are precious and your grandparents are precious. Other people shouldn't do it. You should know what's the wise thing to do. Don't listen to other people who have political ideas why they tell you what to do or not to do. I mean, I'm a medical doctor, so I really care about this stuff. It's terrible. Can people decide for themselves what's good for them?
Right. So so the bottom line is you're as a doctor, you're for masks right now, or what's because what's the reality?
Yeah, I'm not going today. The guy came to fix my television. The whole family put on masks. Okay. I have different freezers that I bought. I have stored food for at least half a year.
Wow.
Because at a certain moment, I don't want to go out anymore.
Right. Okay. I just know that right now you have to put on a mask to go to. So I actually don't like it because it's like you can't breathe. I'm not a doctor, so maybe my opinion is wrong, but I think if you have a mask, right, you can't breathe properly. Like
if you have the N95.
God, nobody has that. Yeah, I just
then you can you can have a flight on a flight for 10 hours.
Right. No, and I'm wearing a bandana. That's It's
But the nonsense is with people, it says, listen, I'm checking in, and then I have to keep a distance of, we do it in 1.5 meters, 1.5 meters. But
right.
then I go sit in the airplane, I need the masks, but then everybody sits next to me. And then you serve a soup, and then we take off the mask, we eat soup.
Right.
So nobody takes it seriously. Because why? Because the airlines want to survive. So they say, okay, you can sit there with the mask. You can only take it off when you eat soup, and it will look seriously. So when you check in, you keep your distance. And the airplane, I'm sorry for you, but we can't help you because somebody sits next to you.
Right.
So
No,
let's first, before we make money, let's first see, stay people, stay. I write about it a lot. Try to stay healthy. Think for yourself. You don't need a sheriff without any brains to tell you what is the way to survive this virus.
Okay. So on that note, we're gonna wrap up.
And
Charles
I'm
Nenner.
sorry, but I get emotional about this. Not about finances, but this makes me emotional.
I get it. I get it. So, anybody who wants to free trial, 30 days, charlesnenner.com to get the all the latest market insight. Charles, when are we going to have you back? We need to get the update.
Well, it's interesting to see. Like I said, the S&P is right at 3,400. That is the important level. That's why, again, we sold stocks and we only have options, call options, because if it goes through, then it might get crazy. So I don't want to miss it. But I have a very small capital invested just in long-term options, and that's all we can lose. If it really takes off after 3,400, we have a new situation. I don't think it's going to happen, and then we'll talk again.
Okay. No, it could be. This could be. Yeah, it could be a sort of like I mean, the Nasdaq looks like it's just going parabolic here. So it's.
Yeah. But don't forget, if you take 4 of the biggest stocks, Amazon, Facebook, and whatever, have Netflix, that's already 30% of the S&P.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. We wouldn't be where we were except of those 4 stocks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. On that note, Charles, I want to thank you for joining us again. We're going to have you back soon before the election, maybe sometime in October. Hopefully, the virus situation will be gone and the euro will be at at par with the dollar. They're going to be letting Americans back into Europe. I'll visit you in Amsterdam.
I just heard that we only accept new clients if they sign that they wear masks. I just heard that.
Perfect. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next live stream.
Be safe. Be safe.
Thank you, Charles.